The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guests and don't necessarily reflect the views of WOWT.
Those of you who are watching on the YouTube channel, I will explain what all of this is in front of us in just a moment or so. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel or just go and check it out from time to time, we've been doing this now for over a year, so we've got like 70 or so podcasts up there with various topics, various guests, various ideas. Go and spend some time browsing on the YouTube channel. But I'll get to that in a second. But before we get to that, I got to talk to you about my friends at Havana Garage in the Old Market. I'll tell you what, Chaz and the company there they're just good people with an amazing humidor. If you like a cigar and like relaxing, Havana Garage in the Old Market. Yeah, if you'd like to maybe just get together with some friends and have a conversation, have a cocktail or two, Havana Garage in the Old Market. Yeah, tell them we heard about it on the Becca's Talking podcast, but check it out. Havana's Garage, where? Yeah, in the Old Market. Okay, so in front of me right now, and for those that are just listening on the audio podcast, in front of me right now is a whole... I don't know. It's not quite a buffet. I don't think you would call it, but a nice setting here of nuts and dates and apricots. Right? Is that apricots? Along with tea and milk and all this, and it all has to do with my guest, who is Pam Font-Gabel. She is with Refugee Women Rising, and so Pam, I got to start off, I guess, by asking, what is all this, and why did you bring it?
Thank you, Tom. I'm really, really happy to be here with you.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for inviting me and for being open to talking about Refugee Women Rising today.
Yeah. So what is this?
Yes. So I brought this today. This is something that we call sufra, which is an Arabic word. It literally means to lay out a table, right? So when a guest comes to visit you, you welcome them. And you would offer them something to drink. You would pull out some snacks. And at Refugee Women Rising, one of the really important things that we do is welcoming women before we do anything, welcoming community. And so I know I'm your guest today, but I wanted to bring Sufra to you because we are together here at the table.
That's very nice. And is it like coffee and tea, right? Mm-hmm. And then some dairy and nuts and apricots and prunes.
Dates.
Dates. Okay, well, I couldn't tell from here. Okay. Dates, which actually, so a couple years ago, had some Afghan refugees move in next door to me. And when I went to visit them, very similar to this. Mm-hmm. It was, yes, we had tea and we had conversation. They had some crackers and some cakes, mm-hmm. and we sat and through an interpreter, talked and everything. It was fascinating. So we have refugees here in Omaha.
Yes.
And the political climate is changing. That although you're called Refugee Women Rising, and you have this to welcome people, the political climate right now is not necessarily all that welcoming to refugees, is it?
No.
So what is Refugee Women Rising? What is it? And how do you help these people when they come to town?
First of all, I love that you said that you had Afghan neighbors move in and that you went to their house and they welcomed you with sufra. And even though you didn't speak the same language, you were there together.
Yeah.
Right? And you were building some type of community. So Refugee Women Rising, although right now in the United States there are not new refugees coming in, we still are as busy as ever. We've been running for about 4 years now. We've been doing that work a lot longer, but we did it under Benson Area Refugee Task Force. But through Refugee Women Rising, we really wanted to focus on women because women were coming to most of the programming and most of the classes and workshops. And traditionally, refugee women have come from cultures that are more patriarchal and they haven't had the same opportunities as women in developed countries do. And so we want to ensure that our work is done through their eyes and through their words. Even when we started our programming, and we really work through relationship, right? Oh,
No, no, no. I mean, I'm curious. You talked about this. So,
Yeah.
like, what you do when they come in, you help them with their language. You help them learn English. Do you help them get jobs? I mean, if you're dealing with a patriarchal society, these women are not used to, having that freedom, right?
yes.
So do you just try to help them assimilate into American culture, or is that what this is all about?
Yes, and we actually like to use the word integrate because we want them to feel a part of it. Most of the people did not choose to be refugees, but people chose to be resettled for the most part. The men in the family probably made the decision to resettle their families. And now that they're here in the United States, everything is different. So how do we help make women's lives easier? We do that through driving, hands-on, comprehensive driving education. We do it through culinary and cooking experiences and dinners. And then we also do it through something, yes, we say wellness. Oh, everything's about wellness now. We really focus on social and emotional wellness and that whole premises of ending that epidemic of loneliness.
How are refugees different than immigrants, or are they interchangeable?
No, they are not. They are here under refugee status, right? So refugees have been vetted through many different international and national systems for many years, actually, before coming to the United States. Less than 2% of the world's refugees are actually resettled somewhere. So we're looking at a very minuscule number of refugees around the world and that end up in the United States and even in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, what do you mean? The refugees are not resettled? So they end up going and staying in refugee camps somewhere in another country?
Yes. And not always in camps, sometimes in camps, maybe sometimes just in the other country because they have permission to be there. But in the United States, it is through a lengthy process. And immigrants come by choice, and they choose where they get to live. Refugees are assigned a country, a state, a city. They have to come through a resettlement agency. Refugee Women Rising is not a resettlement agency. There are 3 others in town, in Omaha. We work closely with them, but we do, once they're here and resettled, how can we help make that transition more opportune and more life-giving to women?
How many women are you dealing with right now?
Hundreds and hundreds.
Really? At what level, do they integrate into society? Are they out getting jobs? Are they supporting their families? Are they just hanging around the house? What is there a common thread through all of this?
Say hanging around the house.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
You mean like just sitting around drinking tea?
Well, taking care of the family and that. But
Yes.
Is there a common thread through all these refugees? Because they're from different countries, right?
Yes, they're from many, many different countries. We work with refugees from around 30 different countries and speaking many more languages than that. But some want to stay home and their husbands want them to stay home. Some want to go to school, get higher education. Some want to get jobs. One of the biggest barriers to all this is unfortunately language. We have a fair number of women that we also work with who were professionals back home, who were doctors and attorneys and teachers, but they can't work here because of the language.
And they can't get certified. I happen to know of a friend who deals with some refugee women, and she has a friend who was a doctor. I believe in Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken, was a doctor, but now here can't do any of that. Yeah,
Correct.
Can't do any of that. Do any of these refugees, are they glad they're here? I would imagine that it's a very traumatic thing to have to leave where you're born and raised, go to another country, stay in a whatever settlement they have there until you get vetted and talked and moved, and then say, okay, you're going to Omaha, Nebraska, which they'd never heard of before. How many of them, I guess, like it here versus how many of them want to go back to where they were?
I think everyone likes it here, and they are incredibly grateful to have the opportunity to be here, and especially in the United States, because of the freedoms, because of the accessibility, the opportunity, what you can do, because they hear about the American dream. They see movies, right? And I say that in jest because we know that movies necessarily are not a true reflection of what American life is like. But knowing that back home, I mean, their families were being persecuted or there were civil wars going on. And so that feeling of safety and of free public education, that's huge, huge. And women themselves, there are a fair number of mothers who come who have not ever had the chance to even go to school themselves.
You talked about they feel the safety. Do they still feel that safe with what's going on with our immigration process right now in the country? Do they still feel safe here in America?
I think that really depends. One of the things is that back home, it was a different feeling of unsafety than it is here, right? Back home, and I'm painting a broad stroke, but more police forces and things like that were militarized. Whereas here, we don't see that as much. Women feel worried and feel scared, but it's nothing like back home. Again, they are grateful to be here. If their status is maybe a little bit unknown, that's where it gets confusing. Again, refugee status is 1,000% a legal status, and there are even different types of refugee status. But for example, if they've, after a refugee comes to the United States through a resettlement program, through the U.S. State Department, they have, after 1 year, they can apply for their green card, which is legal permanent residency. Well, if they've done their paperwork for their green card, sometimes it can take over a year. So that unsettling time, like I've done my paperwork, I'm waiting, I have my work permit, I have my Social Security card, I want to continue my life, but if it's in flux, that's where they get worried.
I can only imagine what it must be like to have to do that, to just go and completely uproot your life and to be in this other country, no matter what that country might be. I mean, if reverse it and leave Omaha and end up somewhere in Kabul or wherever it might be. Where do most of these women come from?
Yeah, so really all over. We see a lot right now from Afghanistan, obviously because of what's happening in the Middle East right now, in all different parts of Africa, Burma, Thailand, Jordan, Ukraine, Pakistan, and again, a wide swath of countries in Africa. You might hear people say, oh, people from Venezuela or Mexico or from Latin America. Those are migrants or immigrants coming that, again, through a different process than a refugee resettlement program.
So basically, there's not one common thread through all of this.
No.
So when do these women all get together, like in group meetings and stuff? Do you all get together and have all these different countries together, trying to figure out what life is like in Omaha?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that we do is we have a literacy and learning program where women are learning to read and write. And again, everything is experiential for us, right? So the more hands-on, the more integrative, the better. We use English and different languages. If we have a wellness activity and it's a knitting class, I'm going to hire Marcia from Afghanistan to be the knitting teacher. it doesn't matter that she can't speak English, or that there are women from Kenya invited, or people from Burkina Faso or Jordan. We're all going to come together, and Marcia is going to show us how to knit.
A lot of these countries, though, that you mentioned, aren't necessarily friends with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Does that cause a conflict? I mean, if you're dealing with, one Muslim sect versus another Muslim sect, because they're primarily Muslim, are they not? Or am I overgeneralizing?
I would say a fair number are Muslim, but definitely not all. No, there are a very large amount of Christians as well.
Okay.
But for us, when you walk in our office into Refugee Women Rising, it doesn't matter your language, your nationality, your family values. We are welcoming you, and we are going to work together to do it.
When you say we, how big of an operation is this?
Rising and growing right now, still small. We have 6 staff, and from all different countries and all different walks of life, speaking all different languages. And then we also have 8 contractors. And some of those contractors are, and actually a fair number of our staff as well, are former refugee and immigrant women. So we do a lot of peer engagement and peer teaching.
So you say, you deal with women because previously you noticed that the men weren't coming to this.
Mm-hmm.
Do the men not come because they're busy at work? Or do the men not come because they don't want to be associated with the women? What cultural reasons why the men don't come?
I think across the world in general, if you would say like social service work or receiving social services or teaching, social and intellectual wellness, those are things that would attract women more. A lot of times, not all of the time, but most of the time, when a refugee family comes, because the man has been working back home, and because he might have a little bit better grasp of English, maybe he would be the one in the family who would be employed first, so the mother wouldn't. So what is she doing? Her children are at school, her husband's at work, and she's sitting alone in her apartment, not knowing anything around her.
These women and these families in general, the refugees in general,
Mm-hmm.
do they leave their countries because of religious persecution? Do they leave it because of some cultural reason? I mean, what makes a person a refugee in the first place?
It could be a number of factors, like what you have discussed. Religious persecution, civil war. There are maybe just government and, that ongoing fighting, that ongoing presence of conflict. It could also be for reasons of climate change, starvation, people's homelands where if they have traditionally lived in maybe a rural area or a forested area and it's being destroyed, they are displaced.
And so they end up here or do you work with other refugee centers around the country? I mean, do all these refugee groups like get together to discuss the problems? Do you have a convention or anything? You know what I mean? So to try to work together on this, or is Omaha its own unit and Des Moines their own unit and Dallas their own unit and that, or do you have a lot of contact with the federal government in trying to integrate these people? What's the whole process on that?
So again, Refugee Women Rising is not a refugee resettlement agency, so we do not. We work with people. I mean, our organization is local here in Omaha because there are thousands and thousands of refugee women here who can benefit from that education and empowerment. We also work locally or a little bit regionally. There are a few national networks, especially as far as advocacy goes. And and even in Omaha, local refugee service providers or local service agencies that provide services not just to refugees, but to the broader community as well.
I brought up religion in a previous question. A lot of these social services like this are faith-based. Is your organization faith-based?
No.
No? How did you get involved in this then? What made because you said before we started this, when you were setting up the sofa here, when you were setting it up, you said that you were passionate about this. Why are you passionate about this?
One of the things that is really important to me is that sense of community wherever you are, right? And so I've had the good fortune of growing up in a family that really took a lot of pride and a lot of action as far as reading, being active in our neighborhood, in our community, in our church, schools, workplaces. And so growing up and doing a lot of volunteer work, not always secular or non-secular.
So you are basically always interested in social work and not necessarily specifically refugee work until you just sort of like got into it, huh?
Yes. Back in the late 90s, I started working in international development, even though my degree is in environmental science, and starting to do that work and hear about refugees and refugee camps and having experiences with an NGO on the East Coast who did a lot of international humanitarian work. And so that, I would say, professionally really jump-started me. And then I got to be in around 2003, the very first group of lost girls from Sudan were being resettled in Boulder, Colorado. And I'd heard of the Lost Boys. I'd read about the Lost Boys. I'd met some Lost Boys. I didn't know that there were lost girls. And I got to be part of that resettlement process. And that was an incredible and eye-opening experience.
Who funds you guys? How do you get your money to do all this?
Local foundations, a couple of national grants, and then private donors.
Has no government money?
No.
So it's all private foundations in that. What's that mood like right now in trying to get those grants? You know, we've seen so many changes in this country in the last 8-9 months or so. Has that affected your ability to raise money? I mean, everybody's got their hand out now. I mean, the food banks are having problems. Other social organizations are having problems. How is that affecting you guys?
I would say in the biggest way, one really positive thing is it is really forcing the envelope for people to collaborate more closely together. So that's been a positive consequence of these things. People, though, who did get national funding or federal and state funding are now also seeking local funding. So it just makes the competition a little bit tighter and sometimes a little bit more nerve-wracking.
Yeah, well, I have a few more questions for you, but I want to talk about the folks here at Havana Garage in the Old Market, who've been with us pretty much since the very beginning of the Becca's Talking podcast. And by the way, as I mentioned, you can go back and check out a lot of the previous podcasts we've done. Go and check that out on the YouTube channel. Also, make sure that you like us on the Becca's Talking Facebook page. But make sure when you're doing all of that, make sure you take some time to go to Havana Garage in the Old Market. While I'm doing the commercial, you went and grabbed some tea here, right? This is tea from the Sufra, right?
Yes.
Now, is this like just good old fashioned, American tea, or is this like
you
a special?
Taste it and tell me.
Yeah, I mean, it tastes basic like a tea I might get somewhere here, in America. Yeah.
It has cardamom on it, a little bit of cinnamon, ginger.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. So, So you've just added some ingredients to it, right? To make this. Is this specific to any particular country?
No.
Just your own concoction that you made up.
Well, in our office, we always have sufra every day. We just have an open sufra, and women come in. We serve and collaborate together over a sufra. And so women are always making different types of tea. So whatever we have, we just throw together.
Okay, so at what point in time do you get these women to stop calling it sufra and start calling it the snack bar?
Tom, wouldn't you rather have sufra than a snack bar?
This is very classy. I mean, once in a while around here, somebody will bring by some donuts or some cookies and throw them out there on the table. But nothing as fancy as this.
But this isn't fancy. This is typical, and this is an everyday.
You've never seen what the break room is like at a broadcast facility. This is fancy. Yeah, this is fancy. Okay, so what else we need to know about your organization, or just about the refugee population in Omaha in general?
Not all of just because somebody's a refugee doesn't mean that they're all alike, right? Somebody could say, "Oh, you were born in Cleveland. You must like baseball."
I do. I do. And thanks for rubbing it in that the Guardians lost in the playoffs, but that's okay. That's okay. Well, or maybe more like stadium mustard, which is a delicacy there in Cleveland. But I see your point. Okay,
yes.
So, yeah.
But does everybody from Cleveland like baseball?
Well, they have to because the football team sucks.
No, and not everybody that is from Ohio lives in Cleveland.
Right, yeah.
And everybody has different things that they like and that they do and that they participate in and that their gifts and talents are. Just because somebody is a refugee or just because somebody is a Muslim woman from Libya doesn't mean that she has the same beliefs and family traditions as a Muslim woman from Syria. Mm-hmm. Every day we are learning from each other. I have made plenty of maybe cultural mistakes or maybe said the wrong thing, but it is being able to be real with somebody and really respecting and having that conversation.
Well, if you say the wrong thing, do they understand that you're just trying to, get along? You're just trying to, or do they get upset that all of a sudden you have, inadvertently humiliated them or inadvertently insulted them in some way?
Mm-hmm. I would say for the most part, women are incredibly understanding.
Not the ones I've dated. That's another story altogether. Never mind. Yeah.
People know also if you are obviously not from the same place or speak the same language or practice the same cultural things, people know and are gracious that you are there, right? And that you want to learn. They're assuming goodwill. And so it is always that maybe understanding. One funny story is that one time I went to visit a family from Burma, and they were having a gathering in their home. And one of them had given me a beautiful hand-woven skirt. And it was a big piece of fabric that you step into, right? And so I stepped into it, but it's just a piece of fabric. There's no snaps, buttons, zippers. And so I safety pinned it up. And then I went to the house. I greeted people. When I went into the kitchen, the mother was there, and I greeted her. And there was a small circle of grandmothers there. I'm presuming they were grandmothers. And I got the evil eye, and I was like, oh, no. And I tried to say hello, and I was glad to be there in their language. That didn't go over very well. And the mother very quietly took me by the hand, brought me upstairs, and helped me redress because the skirt I was wearing upside down.
Oh.
And I had safety pinned it. I hadn't tied it. So she fixed me right back up. We went back downstairs, and then the grandmothers welcomed me.
Well, see, we're so much more alike than we want to admit, because how many grandmothers would look at a young woman and say, "You're wearing that?
Yes.
How do you go out of the house dressed like that?" So we're a lot more alike than we want to admit sometimes, which sort of reminds me of when I was talking about my neighbors that were Afghan refugees. I see the kids outside playing.
Yes.
And they'd be up playing, and they were just like everyday kids, And we try to put these artificial roadblocks between us. And these were kids that were just, and they were assimilating into their English was much better than their parents' English was. And that now, in my particular case, like I said, with these neighbors, they happened to, when they first came to America, the house next door to me was available, and so they moved in there. They stayed for about, I think, a year or two, and then they moved away. With the refugees that you deal with, do they all tend to navigate or congregate in their own cultures? In other words, do all the Burmese women and their families stay in this part of town, and all the ones from Afghanistan over there, and the ones from Jordan over there? Or do they just, like all the refugees, sort of like hang out together? Like you said, because you deal with all of them in your organization all at one time. Do they sort of just hang out with other refugees?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a mix. There are definitely areas of town where more refugees are placed in housing than not. And when people save money and then they buy a house, they usually buy it out west. But look at the Yale Park apartments up north, where a significant number of Burmese families live. Why? It feels good to live close to people who speak your language and know your culture. In your neighborhood, you probably feel good being around your neighbors, I hope.
Well, I got one right 2 doors down, but we won't talk about that.
But, we are around people who we feel good around and safe around. But really, people are spread a lot throughout the city.
But that's true of pretty much. We always feel more comfortable around. I feel more comfortable around broadcasters than I do maybe around insurance people, and just because we always try to tend to congregate with people that are similar to us.
Something also about Refugee Women Rising, how I was talking about that women aren't used to maybe being recognized or even being looked at in the eye. And when they walk in our office, and our office at Jocelyn Castle and Gardens, it looks like you're walking into a living room, and they immediately feel at home. Yes, they have an appointment. Yes, they are going to sign up for the driving program. Yes, we're going to get them enrolled in our maternal wellness program. But first, sit down, and we're going to have tea together. And your environment and how you interact with people matters the world.
Which is not necessarily how we do things in America. So do they eventually become, hey, sit down, here's a cup of coffee, now let's get to business? or do they always stay with their traditions and their culture? In other words, I guess what I'm asking, how American do they become?
What is American? Right? Because what you were born with, what you know, what you feel good about, who you are, is always going to be with you. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, right? So that doesn't mean to say every single woman's house who we walk into, there's a sufra going to be set for us. Women aren't always going to be speaking their first language. At home, they might. That's their comfort. Right. Maybe that's where they'll be cooking. Most kids now, when, refugee parents, when they come and their kids now are growing up in the U.S., and now they want to eat pizza and they want to play Pokemon and they want to be on their smartphones, right?
Right, yeah.
Because that's just a normal part of what kids do these days.
The reason I ask that is because my parents, both of my mom and dad, were raised by first generation Czechoslovakian people, right? So as a young kid growing up, I would go over to grandma's house, and there would be the pork and dumplings and the Czech traditions, right?
Yes.
But then when I went back home, back in the neighborhood, then I was an American kid. But when I would go and visit grandma and grandpa, I would then be that kid that didn't understand what they were talking about as they were speaking in Czech. Yeah. But so that's why I guess the whole process. And when you say what is American, I think that's a very valid question, because I think we are. Ronald Reagan, I think, said it best. I'm paraphrasing here. But he said, you can go to China, but you will not become Chinese. You can go to England and not become English. I said, but you come to America and you become an American. And I think that's a thing that, I hope that we can get more of that Ronald Reagan attitude back in the country. Because I do think that one of the things that I love about this land is the different cultures. The fact that they say we're a melting pot. I like to think of us more as a stew, where all the different flavors come together to make a great country. And it was all done with immigrants and refugees.
Yes.
And that's how it all began, and that's how it continues to grow.
And I love that in Omaha, I think is incredibly diverse. Yes, I know I'm looking through a particular lens, but I can go down to the beautiful Riverfront Park, and I can see and hear people speaking different languages. I can see the symphony playing. I can drink Turkish coffee, and I can get an ice cream made right here locally.
And I also love going to, whether it be Cinco de Mayo or the La Festa Italiana, Oktoberfest. I mean, there are all these different cultural celebrations that happen throughout throughout America, but throughout here in Omaha, that I love to go and experience all of that.
Yes.
Polka music may not be my first choice, but boy, and you go out there and have an Oktoberfest. It's it's great music. I want to thank you for coming on here, because I think this is very cool. I'm going to now wrap this up and enjoy some dates and nuts and apricots, dried apricots, and that. Thank you very much. If people want to find out more about Refugee Women Rising, how do they go about doing it?
Tom, like everybody else, right? So our website is refugeewomenrising.org.
Easy enough to remember?
Yes. And so our socials, Facebook and Instagram. We have our office at Joslyn Castle, and we also have an office at Yates Illuminates, both on Davenport Street. And we welcome people to just stop by, see what we're doing, see our programming. We also welcome volunteers to come and learn with us and learn alongside, to help integrate, to help build that community and welcome.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Pam, thank you very much. Refugee Women Rising is the name of the organization. Want to thank the folks at Havana Garage for bringing this to you again. Want to thank them for all of their support. And I also want to thank you. Make sure, please, spread the word. Share this on your social media. Let people know about the podcast, and go and like the YouTube channel, or subscribe to the YouTube channel, and like us on the Facebook page, and keep on joining us once a week with a new, interesting Omaha or local area person talking about the cool things that make up this metropolitan area. Till next time, take care, and bye, y'all.